And good evening. After a several-month pause for the Shelter Better Task Force to define best practices for homeless shelters in Boise, Interfaith Sanctuary is moving forward with their original plan. Interfaith submitted a conditional use permit to the city asking to place a homeless shelter at the old Salvation Army building on West State Street. Our Andrew Bartline is live at the new State Street location, the proposed one. Andrew, Interfaith has been patient to make this move, but a lot of neighbors are upset. What's Interfaith's plan to make this all work?
Yeah, they say it's really about conversations and listening to people. They had public hearings where they talked to people who lived in these neighborhoods, the neighborhood associations. There was the Better Shelter Task Force you just talked about. That was a 10-week-long process. So they say they're listening to people, trying to implement that feedback and creating relationships as part of it, because they do plan to be right here on West State Street. Renderings for the proposed Interfaith Sanctuary homeless shelter on West State Street, but they're not likely to impress Ren Gardner.
Where are they going to go? And we believe they're going to come around here.
Ren shares a fence line with the proposed shelter location and says the neighborhood is a low-income area that just recently started to clean itself up.
We've had theft problems in the past because of the drug situation, and we're afraid that that may come back over to the neighborhoods again.
Interfaith is moving forward, however, after considering recommendations from the Shelter Better Task Force. Interfaith has now submitted a conditional use permit to the city.
There was only one building that would really work with the timeline, with the budget, with the location and the criteria.
The permit lists the best practices for a homeless shelter. These best practices were outlined by the Shelter Better Task Force and includes criteria like staying open 24/7 and being accessible through public transportation.
What we're doing is creating a very safe way for people who choose shelter to be protected, because out on the street is where all the harm happens when you have no place to be all day.
But Ren has concerns the shelter is enabling homelessness, and he wants to see the shelter focus on providing resources to help people out of poverty, like finding permanent housing of their own.
I believe if they would do that over here, there wouldn't be nearly as much opposition.
According to the permit, Interfaith and Ren actually agree on this. The permit says all Interfaith Sanctuary guests are connected to Catch and entered into the coordinated entry system to start the housing process. We are aware we are a shelter, not a permanent housing solution for our guests.
It's about people having faith in us. We know what we're doing. We know why we're moving to this building. We know we're going to be good neighbors.
Now Interfaith is trying to reach out again, even though Jody Peterson-Steigers, the executive director you just heard from, said they don't legally have to do that. They're going to have another public hearing. They don't have a date for that set quite yet, but people who belong to these neighborhood associations should be getting a letter here shortly to notify them when and where and how they can continue this conversation, because Interfaith says to be a good neighbor, as they want to be here in this neighborhood, it's going to be important to continue that conversation. Kim.
Well, Andrew, it's a big deal if this center, the new proposed location, is open 24/7, because that would make it different from other shelters. Most shelters in the valley close during the day, so that perhaps may alleviate some of the neighbors' concerns about the homeless population congregating in the neighborhood when the shelter is closed, if they stay open 24/7. So much to be determined as this continues to play out. Andrew, thank you.